Welcome to Sew with Stacy. Today we're going to make a tablecloth, and tablecloths didn't feel like I should make a full tutorial because they are one of the easiest things you can ever make as a sewer, and a really good project to start with as a beginner sewer. You just basically need a piece of fabric and you need to hem it. It's that straightforward. Because this is so straightforward and doesn't take a whole lot of time, I thought we'd do a little bit of a different video today, and let's talk through me actually sewing it in about 20 minutes as more of an in real life play-by-play action of me sewing a tablecloth. When I first sit down at my table, I always have to choose my thread and make sure my machine is all set up properly. So you'll see that I'm finding my thread, and I am also trying to find a bobbin. I have probably 100 bobbins, and they are always usually full of thread. So I'm looking for one that is pre-filled. Can't find one, so I have to unwind it. I hate doing this. I hate taking thread off of bobbins, mostly because I think it's a waste. But what I try to do is I try to find one that has the least amount of thread on it, so I unwind that and I can reuse it. Because of the size of the tablecloth, you're going to want to have a pretty full bobbin because you don't want to run out of bobbin thread in the middle of the project. It's really annoying when that happens, so I suggest you just fill your bobbin up as much as you can with your machine. You'll see that I'm kind of chatting to myself, but I'm really not. Next to me is my son. He's on the computer. He's playing some video games. I'm just talking to him about his homework and making sure that he has his homework done for the week. Of course he doesn't, so you'll see him walk behind me in a few seconds to go get his homework done. I tend to have my kids around me during the weekends, especially when I'm doing private projects like this. They're always around, and they come in and out and watch me or talk to me as I'm sewing a lot of the times. I do tend to find that I do smaller projects on the weekends when they are here, so that I can do them in between activities with the kids or between dinner, so that I don't spend too much time away from them. I do tend to have a bad habit of throwing thread or throwing pieces of fabric onto the floor. I do clean up after myself after every project. I sweep, I vacuum, all that great stuff. It's a really bad habit I have. You'll see me do it quite consistently throughout this video. As I'm sewing, you'll see I've set my machine already. So my machine is about a mid-length sewing stitch. I haven't adjusted any of my tensions or anything like that. My machine's about 3 years old. Before this machine, I had a really basic machine, to be honest. It was a very manual, basic sewing machine. I got this machine. This is a much more advanced. It's all electronic. It's got embroidery availability in it. I love it. I love my machine very much, and I don't know what I would do without it. So this is the second tablecloth I've made in about 2 months. My family and I just recently moved from the UK, where we lived for over 20 years, to New Zealand. We are now living in New Zealand. And down here in the Southern Hemisphere, Christmas is during the summer. So I needed a new tablecloth for Christmas because the one I have in all of my Christmas stuff is a really dark red, beautiful berry color that's perfect for Christmas in the UK, where it's cold and dark and you get that really nice cozy feeling with it. Christmas here in New Zealand is during the summer, and so it's hot and it's warm, and you'll see I'm wearing short sleeves and shorts while I'm doing projects because it's pretty warm here during these times of the month. We are heading into summer. So I wanted to find a tablecloth that was probably a little bit more summery, a little bit more fresh and airy, that I just didn't have. And I was looking for one that was already pre-made, but never found one. And so during the sales, I found this beautiful fabric, and decided to make a tablecloth out of this. And I will be making pillows as well, so be on the lookout for that video. That will be more of a proper tutorial video where I will show you how to make a beautiful pillow for your sofa or for your bed, wherever you want to put it. You'll also notice I do a lot of start and stopping as I'm making tablecloths. It's quite a big piece of fabric. So you need to be able to kind of maneuver it so you're not going to misstitch in different places. And as I'm in a fairly small space, I need to move it around a little bit. I can't just lay it out and have it all nice and big. Now let's talk a little bit about the measurements for the tablecloth. Now my table that I have here that I'm made this for is 100 centimeters by 190 centimeters. It's about 40 inches by 75 inches. As you could probably tell from my accent, I am American, but I've lived in the UK for over 20 years. I grew up with imperial, and then I've started living with metric. I interchange it all the time, so I do apologize if I don't give you all of the change and the different measurements in both metric, centimeters or meters, or inches and feet or yards. I try my best, sometimes I forget. Anyway, so going back, my table is 100 centimeters by 190 centimeters or 40 by 75 inches. And so I want to make a tablecloth that fits that table, but also has a bit of an overhang. So you don't want to have your fabric just end at the end. You want it to have it overhang the edge of your table, but not too much, because the last thing you want to do is have it too long and then somebody sits there and pulls the tablecloth and all the food goes on top of them. That wouldn't be a great thing to have. So I tend to kind of go with the rule of having an overhang on either side that's about 25 centimeters or approximately 10 inches. It suits my table really, really well. If you have a bigger table, or if you have one that has maybe some side things that pop up and you need it a bit longer, measure that, and that will determine how much of an overhang you want. So if my table's 100 by 190 and I want to have 25 centimeters on either side, I end up needing a piece of fabric that's 150 centimeters by 240 centimeters, which you can do. So this particular piece of fabric, the width was 155 and the length was, I got a 2.5 meter piece of fabric, and then I came home and just trimmed it slightly before I started sewing. If you want to do a tablecloth that's on the round, obviously you need to do the diameter of that round table and then add whatever additional inches you want on the edge of that, and then create a circle of that shape. And then you just hem the circle edges. I will be getting up in a minute to press the next hem. So the way the tablecloth, how we're actually constructing this tablecloth is very straightforward. You have your piece of fabric and you're basically doing a hem press, sew around, and then another press with the hem, and then another sew. So that really makes a really nice, solid, and really clean finish to the hemline. That makes the piece much more durable if you're going to wash it a lot or if it's going to be touched a lot, so you don't get any fraying of the fabric. So the first thing you do is you take your tablecloth, you go and press about a half an inch of a hem around the whole edge of the fabric. And in this case, you're looking at 6 meters of edging that you're sewing for this particular tablecloth I'm making. So you just turn it over about a half an inch and you press it all the way around. Makes it much easier if you press it. If you try to do it without pressing it, you're constantly having to do it by hand. There are some really, really cool tools out there now with these hem guides, presser foot, that actually do hems as you go. I have some myself, but it's not necessary to complete this project. You just need to be able to know how to hem a piece of fabric. It's that straightforward, nothing more complex than that. If you're more advanced, if you've got the means to be able to buy some of these great little tools. They're just really, really handy to have. I use them personally on occasion. I use them more with more delicate fabrics that I find really difficult to press, really nice and sharp. So I use those tools when I'm dealing with fabric that's a little bit more fragile than cotton. This is a cotton canvas fabric, so it's not going to be too difficult for me to just press and hem. I know it seems kind of boring watching this as I'm sewing, but I do tend to play a lot of music or even have some videos going, movies or something, TV programs that I might be binge watching at the time while I'm sewing, just to have something going on in the background. For this video I didn't, because it's so quick, and I knew my kids were going to be popping in and out as we go. So I definitely love having some music on or having something to watch while I'm sewing to keep my interest alive and not get too bored while you're just sewing and sewing and sewing and sewing. When I do start any sewing, when it comes to hems, I tend to start in the middle of an edge. I don't start at the corner. This makes it's much easier to do it this way, I find, because the corners do get quite bulky as you're folding fabric onto itself. It can get quite bulky. So if you start at the corner, you tend to have a harder time. Your machine might have a harder time getting started. So if you start in the middle where it's nice and flat and as thin as it's going to be, it's much easier to get started. So when you do hit the corner, you can take your time a little bit better and your machine's already going and is in the process. When the corners do start getting quite thick, you do want to take a little bit of care as you're going around those corners and take your time. Maybe not put the presser foot all the way down to the floors, and just really make sure that your corners are nice and clean. Those can be the more tricky parts when you're dealing with hemming and with fabric that is a bit thicker, which this is. This is a cotton twill, a cotton canvas, and it can get quite thick as you layer it up into 3 or 4 pieces on top of each other. So just take extra care as you're going around those corners and make sure you're getting all the fabric as you're going through it as well. So with this straight line stitching, as you can see, I'm not putting a lot of pressure or stress as I'm pushing the fabric through the machine. I'm actually not really touching it at all. I'm just kind of help guiding it through and making some small adjustments as we go. Most machines, if you just put a piece of fabric and you press down on your presser foot, it's gonna go. It's just gonna go straight, and you're not gonna have to guide it too much. This particular project, because there's all this fabric to the left-hand side of me, it does kind of naturally pull it that direction. So you just have to gently kind of keep it aligned underneath the needle. Not a whole lot of pressure. You don't want to pull it really hard. You don't want to press it really hard. This will cause your stitches to be uneven. It could also cause damage to your needle. You could break your needle. It could cause damage to your machine. So you just want to be your touch needs to be nice and gentle, just enough to slightly guide it if there's any sort of misadjustments to it. My machine has some great features on it. It has the ability to change your speed, so you can have a slow, medium, or fast speed. I tend to sew on fast because I have lots of years of experience with sewing. Different fabrics different projects will require different levels of sewing. But I do tend to do it on the fast speed, and the presser foot or the speed foot that you've got that you have under your machine that's helping your needle go up and down, you also control that as well. So the harder you press on your foot, it will go fast, and the least amount of pressure makes it go slower. So as a beginner it's really good to do projects like this because it gives you ability to kind of test how much pressure do you put on your foot so that you can get your stitches to go as slow or as fast as you want if you don't have a machine that has preset speeds on it. It's really good practice just to get a good feel of your machine and to learn a little bit more about your sewing strategy and plans. Another great feature of my machine is it has the ability to move the needle from side to side. This is a great feature for me. I use it a lot, specifically when I'm doing any sort of top stitching or hemming like we're doing for the tablecloth. What you want to do with your needle positioning is you do want to keep your needle as close to the sewed edge of your hem as possible to keep that all of those pieces of fabric inside that hem. You don't want to have it too close to the edge if it opens up the hem on the inside and then you're seeing some frayed fabric. That's not going to work really nicely. So you want to keep it as close to that sewn edge as possible as you're hemming across the whole tablecloth. These features that I have on my machine are more advanced features that you're going to see on more expensive machines, but for any beginner sewer out there that might be watching this video, it's not necessary. You don't need to have all these features. My daughter tends to come and visit me a lot when I'm sewing. She's so interested in it. She's my little fashionista. She loves dressing up. She loves dresses generally. She loves costumes, makeup, all of those great things. And I've made her many, many things over the years. And now that she's almost 7, she's definitely shown an interest in sewing. And it's one of the reasons why I started this channel, which is incredible. Helping her sew and generally helping anyone with young children, help them learn how to sew is such a great skill to have. So she comes and visits me a lot, usually asks me what I'm doing, what I'm making, why I'm making it, and always wants to help. And at this age, it's actually a really good age to get them interested and started if they've got some natural, keen interest to sew. 7-year-olds can use sewing machines with some supervision. Sewing machines are fairly safe machines to use nowadays. They have a lot of safety features in them that makes it really, really difficult for kids to hurt themselves. So a 7-year-old can easily sew, and as long as you teach them some basic skills, which we will have here on my channel. So if any of your children want to sew, keep coming back. We're going to have more and more videos. We're going to do more and more hints and tips as we go along. So here my daughter decides she wants to help me with my project, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'm just changing some of the settings on my machine. I'm putting my speed down to a medium so that if she does press the foot quite hard, which she tends to do, she doesn't have that dexterity yet to change the presser foot. So she always tends to put her foot down quite hard on that foot, and she is helping me. We talk a lot about sewing. We talk a lot about clothes and construction of clothes. We talk a lot about material. We talk a lot about sustainability and how you can reuse clothes. I've done a lot of projects with her where we've taken some dresses that have grown too small and made them into skirts, or did something else with the fabric so we can reuse it. Fabric waste is such a big issue nowadays with all the fast fashion out there. Being able to find ways to reuse what you've got is really, really important. And so she's definitely keen on trying to figure out things she can do with her old fabric. She actually takes old pieces of fabric and uses them on her dolls and makes little outfits for them. It's quite cute. we've pretty much finished up our tablecloth, and now it's really all it's ready to do is to put it onto the table. On my table I do have a heat pad to help any heat things going on top of it. Yeah, it's definitely important when you have an all wood table, and here in this weather and we get a lot of sun through that window, so we need to make sure we can protect the table and the wood quite a bit. So I'm just changing out the tablecloth into the new one. You can see it fits. As you can see, I'm also wearing shorts and a t-shirt. It's very hot here right now. It's a strange feeling having Christmas in summer. Don't know if I'll ever get used to it, but we'll see how that goes in the next few years. I want to thank you for joining me today. This was a little bit of a different video. I felt like I needed to change it up a little bit and see what other people thought about how good doing more of a play-by-play versus an actual tutorial. So do let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are about this video. Please do like and subscribe our channel if you're interested in more content. A website, which is www.sewwithstacy.com, where we also have a lot of great projects. We've got a lot of blogs on there that tells you a little bit more and goes a little bit more in depth into some tips and tricks of sewing. And hope we see you soon.